Friday afternoon at 2:35 p.m., the classroom phone rang while I was teaching chemistry. 23 sophomores were watching me demonstrate acid-base reactions with litmus paper. I ignored the first ring because lab safety protocol meant no interruptions during experiments. The phone rang again. I picked it up and heard the secretary's voice shaking slightly when she told me to come to the elementary playground immediately. Emma had fallen and paramedics were already there. I dropped the beaker and ran. The elementary wing shared our campus, and I knew the route by heart because I ate lunch with Emma every Friday in her second-grade classroom. Down 3 hallways, through the double doors, past the lockers that still smelled like new paint from summer renovations. The playground looked wrong from 50 feet away. Kids clustered by the fence instead of playing. 2 teachers holding them back with outstretched arms. Ambulance parked at an angle with lights flashing but no siren. That meant conscious patient, which was good, but the silence felt worse somehow. Emma was on the ground next to the monkey bars with a paramedic kneeling beside her. Her left arm bent at an angle that arms don't bend. I dropped to my knees on the wood chips, and she started crying harder when she saw me. The paramedic was young, maybe 25, with the kind of calm face that comes from doing this job long enough to know panic doesn't help. He told me both bones were probably broken based on the displacement, and we needed to get to St. Mary's Hospital immediately. I climbed into the ambulance with Emma while they loaded her onto the stretcher, and she screamed when they moved her arm even slightly. That sound cut through everything else like glass breaking in an empty room. I called Lisa from my cell phone once we started moving. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear her keyboard clicking in the background because she worked from home doing graphic design. I told her Emma broke her arm and we were headed to the ER. 2 seconds of silence, then she said she was leaving right now and asked if I'd called my mother yet. I said I wanted to wait until we knew more from the doctor. Lisa said no, call them now. This is exactly what family is supposed to be for. The paramedic put an oxygen mask on Emma's face, even though she was breathing fine. He told me later it gave kids something to focus on besides pain. We pulled up to the emergency room at 2:58 p.m. Automatic doors, fluorescent lights that made everything look too bright, that specific antiseptic smell that every hospital has. Nurses moved around us, asking questions about insurance and allergies, while I tried to remember Emma's exact date of birth, even though I'd known it for 7 years. They put us in a room with a curtain partition, and Emma lay on the bed crying softly, while a nurse told us the doctor would be here in a few minutes. I held Emma's good hand and told her she was being so brave. 3:25. Lisa came through the curtain carrying Emma's stuffed rabbit that she slept with every night and a plastic grocery bag with a change of clothes for me, because I was still wearing my lab coat with chemical stains on the sleeves. Emma grabbed the rabbit with her good hand and held it against her chest. Lisa kissed her forehead and smoothed her hair back and didn't say anything about the arm yet because sometimes not talking about the scary thing helps more than talking about it. 3:30. Dr. Patel came in. She was older, maybe 60, with short gray hair and the kind of gentle voice people use with frightened children. She looked at Emma's arm without touching it and said they needed x-rays before she could tell us anything definite. They wheeled Emma down the hall on the bed, and we followed behind like a small parade. Radiology department, cold room, big machine that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Emma cried through the entire process. We stood in the hallway afterward waiting for results, and Lisa held my hand without saying anything because there wasn't anything to say yet. 3:45. Back in the emergency room with X-ray images pulled up on a computer screen mounted to the wall. Dr. Patel pointed to 2 bones that were clearly broken with fragments displaced away from each other instead of lined up properly. Both the radius and ulna fractured, she said, which meant Emma needed surgery to place pins and hold everything in position while it healed. They would admit her overnight, possibly 2 nights depending on how she responded to the procedure. Lisa squeezed my hand hard enough that her nails dug into my palm slightly. Dr. Patel said surgery was scheduled for somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m., and we could stay with Emma until then. Afterward, she would go to room 340 on the pediatric floor. When the doctor left, Lisa looked at me and said I needed to call my family and tell them what was happening. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat that had 8 people in it. Me, Lisa, my mother, my father, my sister Ashley, my brother Jake, my Aunt Carol, and Ashley's husband Brett. I typed out the message explaining Emma broke both bones in her forearm and needed surgery tonight at St. Mary's Hospital, and we would be here for 2 or 3 days in room 340 after the procedure was finished. Hit send at 3:45 p.m. Watched the screen and saw the read receipts appear one by one over the next 6 minutes. Mom at 3:47. Ashley at 3:48. Dad at 3:50. Jake at 3:51. All 4 of them saw the message within 6 minutes of me sending it. I told Lisa they saw it, and she nodded and said, "Good. Someone will probably come by soon." 4 o'clock. A nurse brought Emma pre-op medications in a small plastic cup that looked like the kind you get at a dentist's office. Liquid that tasted like artificial cherry flavoring according to Emma's face when she swallowed it. The medication made her drowsy within 20 minutes. Lisa sat in the chair next to the bed, reading aloud from some book about a girl and a dragon, while Emma's eyes kept closing and opening slower each time. I sat in the other chair checking my phone every few minutes. 4:15. No messages from anyone. 4:30. Still nothing. 5 o'clock. 0 responses in the group chat. I opened it again just to confirm I'd actually sent the message and wasn't imagining things. The message was there, with all 4 red receipts still showing and no replies underneath. 5:30 came and went. Lisa looked up from the book she'd been reading and asked if anyone responded yet. I said not yet, and she frowned and said, "That's weird." 6:15. The nurse came in and said they were ready to take Emma to surgery now. Emma opened her eyes, still groggy from the medication, and said my name like a question. I stood up and held her good hand and told her I would be right here in this exact spot when she woke up, and I promised. She said, "Okay." They wheeled her bed out of the room and down the hallway toward the double doors marked surgery, and we couldn't follow past that point. The doors swung closed behind her, and we stood there for a long moment before walking to the surgical waiting room. Uncomfortable chairs with thin padding, old magazines from 3 months ago, television on the wall playing the news with the sound turned off. We sat down and I checked my phone again. Instagram notification from Ashley. I opened the app and saw she had posted a story 6 minutes ago. Professional quality photo probably taken on her phone with one of those filters that makes everything look expensive. Location tag said, "Bellissimo Ristorante." The photo showed my mother, my father, my brother Jake, my Aunt Carol, Ashley's husband Brett, and Ashley in the middle, all of them holding champagne glasses and smiling. The caption said, "My 34th never felt so good," with a champagne bottle emoji and a crown emoji, and the words "blessed" and "family first" as hashtags. Posted at 6:10 p.m. I stared at the photo for 30 seconds trying to make my brain process what I was seeing. Then I showed it to Lisa. She looked at the screen, then at me, and said they were at Ashley's birthday party in a voice that had no emotion in it at all. I said they all read my message at 3:50. Her face went completely cold. Not angry yet, just empty, like someone had turned off all the lights behind her eyes. She said to keep watching because there would be more posts. She was right. 6:45. New story posted. Video of a birthday cake with lit candles and everyone singing in the background. I could see my mother's face in the corner of the frame laughing. 7:05. Another photo. My father standing with his wine glass raised mid-toast. Caption said, "Best dad speech ever," with a crying emoji and a heart emoji. 7:20. Group photo that looked professionally composed with everyone gathered close together. Ashley in front with her hand on her chest smiling. Caption said, "My real support system," with a red heart emoji. Lisa saw that one and said, "What the heck does that mean?" I said I didn't know. Put my phone away and stared at the wall. Lisa put her hand on my knee and told me not to do it. I asked not to do what? She said not to make excuses for them yet. I didn't respond to that. 8:30. The surgeon came out still wearing scrubs with her mask pulled down around her neck. She told us surgery went well, and they placed pins in both the radius and ulna. Emma would need a cast for 6 to 8 weeks. She was in recovery now, and should be awake in about 30 minutes. 9:15. A nurse came to get us and led us to the recovery area. Small room divided by curtains with Emma in the second bed, eyes half open, cast running from her elbow to her fingertips in bright purple because that was her favorite color. She said mommy and daddy in a small voice. Lisa was next to her, immediately telling her we were both right here. Emma said it hurts, and the nurse adjusted something on the IV and explained that was pain medication kicking in. Emma's eyes focused a little more, and she looked around the small recovery area like she was trying to figure out where she was. Then she asked where Grandma was. Lisa looked at me and I felt something crack inside my chest. I told Emma that Grandma couldn't come tonight. Emma said, "Oh, okay," and closed her eyes again. They moved her to room 340 around 10 o'clock on the pediatric floor where everything was quieter with dimmer lights and nurses who walked in soft-soled shoes that didn't make noise. Lisa curled up in the chair next to Emma's bed and pulled a thin hospital blanket over herself. She fell asleep within minutes because she'd been awake and anxious for 7 straight hours. I sat in the other chair and checked my phone again. Still 0 messages from my family in the group chat. I typed out another message saying Emma was out of surgery and she was okay. Sent it at 10:12 p.m. Watched the screen. Ashley's red receipt appeared at 10:15. No response came after it. I opened Instagram again and saw Ashley had posted something new at 10:22. Photo of her mid-laugh, candid shot with professional lighting, probably taken by Brett. Caption said, "Best birthday ever. Thank you to everyone who made it special," with a heart emoji and a champagne glass emoji. 47 likes already. Comments underneath said things like, "You deserve it, Queen," and "So happy for you," and "Gorgeous as always." I took a screenshot of that post and another screenshot of the group photo with the caption about her real support system. Then I took a screenshot of my message with all the read receipts showing the exact times everyone saw it. Saved all 3 images to a folder. Put my phone away and sat in the dark hospital room listening to Emma breathe. Saturday morning at 7 a.m., Lisa woke up and stretched in the chair where her neck probably hurt from sleeping at a weird angle all night. Emma was still asleep, breathing steadily with her casted arm resting on top of the blanket. Lisa told me to go home and shower and she would stay here with Emma. I asked if she was sure and she said yes. Just bring back breakfast when I came back, maybe bagels. I stood up and kissed Lisa's forehead and looked at Emma one more time before leaving. Drove home through empty Saturday morning streets and the house felt wrong when I walked in. Too quiet, too normal, like nothing had happened in the last 16 hours. I showered and changed into clean clothes and stood in the kitchen for a full minute, not sure what I was supposed to do next. Checked my phone. The group chat still had no new messages. Opened Instagram and saw my mother had posted something at 11:30 last night. Photo from the party showing her hugging Ashley with a caption that said, "My beautiful girl," and a red heart emoji. Jake's wife had posted a group photo showing everyone at the table with dessert plates visible in front of them. Every single post had the location tagged as Bellissimo Ristorante. I sat in my car in the driveway for 10 minutes, staring at my phone and scrolling through posts and trying to make sense of how all 6 of them could see my message about Emma's emergency surgery, and then spend the entire night at a birthday party posting photos online. Couldn't make it make sense. Drove back to the hospital and stopped at the bagel shop on the way. Got Emma's favorite kind with cinnamon sugar. 9 a.m. Back in room 340. Emma was awake watching something on the iPad that Lisa must have brought from home. She was eating the bagel slowly with one hand, awkward and careful. Lisa watched her for a minute, then pulled me out into the hallway. She asked if anyone called and I said no. She asked if anyone texted and I said nothing. Her jaw got tight in that way it does when she's made a decision, and nothing is going to change her mind no matter what I say. She said she was posting about this on Nextdoor so our neighbors would know what my family did. I started to say her name like I was going to argue, but she cut me off. She said no, she was done protecting them, they ignored me, and they ignored Emma, and they partied all night like nothing happened. She pulled out her phone and started typing before I could say anything else. Not that I wanted to stop her. Saturday morning at 9:30, Lisa showed me her phone before she posted anything. I read what she'd written on the Nextdoor app. 7 sentences. Simple. Direct. No accusations, just facts with timestamps. Yesterday, our 7-year-old had emergency surgery. My husband texted his family at 3:45 p.m. All 6 of them read it within 5 minutes. 0 responded. At 6 p.m., they posted photos from a birthday party. At 9:30 p.m., our daughter asked where her grandmother was. This is who they are. I nodded and she hit post. She said, "Here we go." 10 a.m. My phone started buzzing with notifications. 15. Nextdoor alerts in the first 10 minutes. I opened the app and watched comments appear in real time underneath Lisa's post. Someone named Jennifer M. wrote that this was heartbreaking. Another commenter asked if I was a teacher at Lincoln High because they recognized my name from parent-teacher conferences last year. A third person asked if the sister was Ashley from Cascade Realty. Someone else wrote that they knew my family and couldn't believe this was true. The reaction count at the bottom of the post climbed from 12 to 43 to 63 within the first hour. I showed Lisa the screen and she just looked at it without saying anything. 10:30. I went down to the hospital cafeteria to get coffee because I hadn't slept more than 2 hours and needed caffeine. The cafeteria was mostly empty on a Saturday morning. Just a few nurses on break and one elderly man eating scrambled eggs alone in the corner. I got my coffee and was heading back to the elevator when my phone rang. Principal Henderson. I answered and he asked how Emma was doing. I told him she was okay. Surgery went well. We'd probably take her home Monday. He said good. He was glad to hear it. Then his voice changed slightly and he said he'd seen something on Nextdoor that morning. He asked if that post was about my family. I stopped walking and stood in the middle of the hallway holding my coffee. Told him, yes, sir, that was my family. He said he had no idea and he was sorry we were going through that. I thanked him and said we were managing. Then he asked if my sister was Ashley from Cascade Realty. My stomach dropped. I said yes and asked why he was asking. He explained she was handling his house purchase and they were closing this Monday. Then there was an awkward pause and he said, "Small world anyway, give Emma his best." We hung up. I stood there for another 30 seconds processing that information before walking back to the elevator. 11 a.m., back in Emma's room. Emma was sleeping again. Lisa was reading something on her phone. I pulled out mine and opened Google. Searched for Henderson, Cascade Realty, and 847 Oak Street. Found the listing immediately. House worth $850,000 with professional photos showing a renovated kitchen and a backyard with a pool. Ashley's name was on the listing as the agent. I opened Facebook and went to Ashley's professional page. Scrolled back 3 weeks and found a post with a photo showing Ashley standing between an older couple in front of the same house from the listing. The man was definitely Henderson. Same glasses, same gray hair. The caption talked about how excited she was to help longtime clients find their dream home, and then mentioned that when you have family roots in the community, trust comes naturally. There was a specific line where she wrote, "Shout out to my brother David, beloved Lincoln High teacher," with an exclamation point. The post had 42 likes and 6 comments. One comment said, "Family connections matter." Another said that's real integrity right there. I stared at that post for a full minute. She had used my name, my reputation, without asking, without even telling me. Lisa looked up from her phone and asked what was wrong. I showed her the screen. She read it, then looked at me, then read it again. Asked if Ashley had name-dropped me for credibility with her clients. I said apparently yes, and I never knew about it until right now. Lisa's jaw tightened and she said that makes everything worse somehow. 11:30. My phone started ringing. Mom calling. I declined the call. 10 seconds later, it rang again. Mom calling again. Declined. My phone immediately started ringing with Lisa's number showing on Mom's screen. She was calling Lisa now. Lisa declined without even looking at who it was. Text messages started coming through. Mom's name appeared with a message in all capital letters telling us to take down that post. Ashley sent one saying we were destroying her career. Jake sent one asking why we had to make this public when it was between us. I muted the group chat and put my phone face down on the table next to Emma's bed. Emma stirred and opened her eyes and asked who kept calling. I told her nobody important. 2 p.m. Emma was napping again after eating some lunch. I checked Nextdoor and saw the comment count had reached 138. Scrolled through some of the newer ones. A woman named Jennifer M. had written that she had a showing scheduled with Ashley for Monday but just canceled it. She wrote that if Ashley couldn't show up for her niece's surgery, she didn't deserve anyone's business. Someone replied saying same, they canceled theirs too. Another person commented that character matters when choosing who to work with. I took a screenshot and texted it to Lisa without saying anything. She looked at her phone, read it, and texted back that it's starting. Saturday evening around 6 p.m. Emma was awake watching a movie on the iPad. Lisa was carefully brushing Emma's hair and working around the IV line that was still in her good arm because they wanted to keep it in until discharge the next morning. I sat in the corner chair Googling Ashley's name combined with reviews. Found her Yelp page for her real estate business. Scrolled past the 5-star reviews from happy clients until I got to the 2- and 3-star ones that people usually only leave when something goes badly wrong. One review from 6 months ago gave 2 stars. The reviewer wrote that Ashley was great and attentive until their closing fell through due to inspection issues. After that, Ashley blamed them for wasting her time and stopped returning calls. Very unprofessional when things don't go her way. Another review from 8 months ago gave 3 stars. Said Ashley seemed more interested in her commission than finding them the right home. Felt rushed through viewings. Would not recommend. I said out loud that Ashley's got some bad reviews. Lisa asked, really? I said not many, but there's definitely a pattern of her not handling setbacks well. Lisa said that tracks. Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Dr. Patel came in and said Emma was doing great. Pain was managed well with medication, and we could take her home. Lisa packed up all of Emma's stuff while I signed discharge papers. The nurse removed Emma's IV and gave us a prescription for pain medication and instructions for cast care. I carried Emma to the car because she was still loopy from the medication but smiling. She asked if we could get ice cream on the way home. Lisa said after lunch, baby. The drive home was quiet and peaceful. Emma fell asleep in her car seat within 5 minutes. I checked my phone at a red light and saw 47 missed calls from various family members since yesterday morning. Didn't listen to any of the voicemails. Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m., Emma was napping on the couch at home. My phone buzzed with a text from Principal Henderson. The message said he'd been thinking about everything that happened Friday and asked if we could talk Monday morning before school started. His office at 7:30 a.m. I texted back, of course. He didn't explain what he wanted to talk about. Lisa asked what I thought he wanted, and I said I honestly didn't know. But I knew. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. Sunday evening around 6 p.m., text from my cousin Melissa, who lived in California and hadn't been at the birthday party. She asked how Emma was doing and if she was okay. Then she added that Ashley had called her earlier freaking out about canceled clients and asking what happened. I texted back that Emma was fine and thanks for asking. As for Ashley, she'd have to ask her directly. Melissa responded asking if it was true that I'd turned the town against Ashley. I wrote back that I told the truth and people made their own choices based on that information. Melissa sent back a thumbs up and said she didn't blame me. That text confirmed Ashley was losing multiple clients, not just Henderson. Monday morning at 7:15, I walked into Lincoln High through the main entrance. Lisa stayed home with Emma, who was supposed to rest for at least one more day before going back to school. The halls were empty because students wouldn't arrive for another 45 minutes. Walked to Henderson's office. Door was open. He was sitting at his desk with his coffee and waved me in. He asked if I wanted coffee and I said I was good. He told me he wanted to be direct because he respected me too much to dance around what he needed to say. He'd been thinking about the house purchase all weekend. I stayed quiet and let him talk. He said he'd lived in Ridgemont for 30 years and knew a lot of people in this community. After that Nextdoor post went up on Saturday, his phone hadn't stopped ringing. Parents calling, other teachers calling, everyone asking if he knew about my family situation. I started to apologize for making things awkward, but he cut me off and told me not to apologize. Then he asked if Ashley had used my name in her marketing materials. I pulled out my phone and showed him the Facebook post from 3 weeks ago, with the line about family roots and specifically mentioning me as her brother who taught at Lincoln. He read it, and his face changed. Got harder somehow. He said, I see. Then he told me he was pulling out of the house purchase. I started to say he didn't have to do that, but he interrupted again and said, yes, he did have to do that. He explained that he'd told Ashley he was buying through her because he trusted her. Part of that trust was based on her talking about her close family connections and specifically mentioning me by name. She'd used my reputation to build credibility with him. I said I didn't know she'd done that. He said he believed me, which actually made it worse. She'd exploited my good name without my permission and then ignored my daughter's emergency surgery to go party. That wasn't someone he wanted to do business with. I asked what he was going to tell her. He said the truth, that he'd reconsidered. We talked for another 5 minutes about Emma and when she'd be back at school and if there was anything he could do to help. I thanked him and said we were managing fine. Walked out of his office at 7:55. Stood in the empty hallway for a moment before heading to my classroom. For the first time in years, I felt something I couldn't quite name at first. Then I realized what it was. I felt seen. Not by my family who'd ignored me for a birthday party, but by my boss who'd made a business decision based on character. That felt like something. Monday morning at 8 a.m., I was back in my classroom teaching the periodic table to a group of juniors who looked half asleep. Lisa stayed home with Emma, who needed at least one more day of rest before returning to school. I wrote electron configurations on the whiteboard and explained valence shells while trying not to think about everything that had happened over the weekend. A girl in the front row raised her hand and asked if my daughter was okay. I told her Emma was doing great and thanked her for asking. Another student, a boy who usually sat in the back and never participated, spoke up without raising his hand. He said his mom had seen the post on Nextdoor, and what my family did was really messed up. I paused with the marker still touching the whiteboard. Told the class, let's focus on chemistry. The bell rang at 8:50 and students filed out. I checked my phone while erasing the board and saw 3 missed calls. Mom, Ashley, Jake. Didn't call any of them back. 2:15 p.m. I was in my classroom grading lab reports during my free period when my phone buzzed with a text from Principal Henderson. The message said he'd just sent the withdrawal notice to Cascade Realty effective immediately. I typed back thanking him for telling me. He responded saying I didn't ask him to do this and he wanted that clear. I wrote back that I knew. Checked the time on my phone. 2:15. Ashley probably just found out or would find out any minute now. Put my phone in my desk drawer and went back to grading. 2:47. Driving home from school with my phone connected to the car's Bluetooth. Ashley's name appeared on the dashboard screen with an incoming call. I declined it. 10 seconds later, Ashley calling again. Declined again. Voicemail notification appeared, but I didn't listen to it. My phone buzzed with rapid-fire text messages. Opened them at a red light. 4 messages from Ashley, all in capital letters. First one said, pick up your phone. Second said Henderson backed out. Third asked what I said to him. Fourth said, call me now. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb mode and set it in the cup holder. 3:30. Walked through the front door. Lisa was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for dinner. She asked how school was. I said it was fine, and Henderson withdrew from the house purchase. Her eyes went wide, and she asked if he actually did it. I said, yeah, he did. Emma was on the couch in the living room with her iPad propped up on her lap and her casted arm resting on a pillow. She looked up when she heard my voice. Asked if we could FaceTime Grandma because she wanted to show her the cast. Lisa and I looked at each other. I told Emma maybe later. Emma said Grandma hasn't called yet and asked if she was mad at her. Lisa's jaw tightened, and I could see her gripping the knife handle harder. I knelt down next to the couch and told Emma that Grandma wasn't mad at her. She was just busy right now. Emma said okay and went back to her iPad. 4 o'clock. My phone was still on Do Not Disturb, but I could see notifications piling up on the lock screen. Between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., my phone rang 23 times. Mom called 6 times. Ashley called 8 times. Dad twice. Jake 3 times. Unknown numbers that were probably Brett or Aunt Carol trying from different phones. The group chat counter climbed from 12 unread messages to 47. I watched the screen light up over and over while I made spaghetti for dinner. Didn't answer a single one. Lisa stood next to me, chopping vegetables and watching my phone buzz across the counter. She said Jesus Christ under her breath. Emma asked from the living room who kept calling. I told her nobody important. 6:30. Emma was in bed after taking her pain medication. Lisa and I sat on the couch and I told her I was going to listen to one voicemail just to see what they were saying. Opened my phone and scrolled through 14 voicemails. Picked the one from Ashley that came in at 6:03. Pressed play and put it on speaker so Lisa could hear. Ashley's voice came through crying and screaming. She said my name and told me to pick up. Said Henderson backed out and she just lost $25,000. Said he wouldn't return her calls and asked what I said to him. Accused me of sabotaging her. Then her voice got louder and she said all this was because of a broken arm. And kids break arms all the time. Said I was destroying her career over nothing. Told me to call her back. The voicemail ended. Lisa stared at the phone and asked if Ashley just said over nothing. I said yeah, she did. Deleted the voicemail and put my phone back down. Lisa said I wasn't calling her back. I said no, I wasn't. Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. She said my mom had called her last night and told her the whole family had an emergency meeting about me. They were planning to show up at my house today, and she wanted to warn me. I thanked her for the heads up. She sent another message saying for what it's worth, I did nothing wrong, and Ashley had always been the favorite child. I took a screenshot of the conversation and showed it to Lisa over breakfast. Told her they were coming here today. She said, good, let them come. Tuesday at 3:45 there was a knock on the door. I opened it and found Mom and Dad standing on the porch. Mom's eyes were red and puffy like she'd been crying. Dad stood slightly behind her with his hands in his pockets. Mom said we needed to talk. I told her Emma was sleeping and to make it quick. Dad asked if they could come inside. I didn't move from the doorway. Mom said please. Ashley was devastated. I told her that Emma had asked me yesterday why Grandma hasn't called her. Mom's face crumbled and she started to say she was going to call, but I cut her off. Told her it had been 4 days since Emma's surgery Friday night and she hadn't called once. Dad said they didn't think, and I interrupted him to say, right, exactly, they didn't think. Mom's voice got higher and she said Ashley lost a huge commission because of what I told Henderson. I said I told him the truth when he asked if Lisa's post was accurate. Dad said I could have lied to protect my sister. I asked why I should protect her when she didn't protect my daughter. Mom said Ashley made a mistake, and her voice was shaking. I stepped forward, and my voice came out low and controlled. Told them a mistake is forgetting to call or showing up late. Said Ashley made a choice, and they all did, when they chose a birthday party over a 7-year-old's emergency surgery. Mom insisted they didn't know it was that serious. I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. Scrolled up to Friday at 4:17 p.m. and showed them the screen. Photo of Emma in the hospital bed with her arm in a temporary splint and tears on her face. The caption underneath said, going into surgery in 2 hours, scared. Mom stared at the photo and started crying. Dad leaned in to look and said, they didn't see that. I told them no, they didn't look. They stood there for another minute not knowing what to say. Then they turned and walked back to their car without saying goodbye. I closed the door. Tuesday evening around 7. Emma was watching a movie with Lisa, and I was in the kitchen pretending to clean up from dinner, but really just Googling Ashley's name to see what was happening. Found the Ridgemont Community Facebook group and scrolled through recent posts. Someone had posted something 4 hours ago with 237 reactions. The post said, if you're looking for a realtor, maybe avoid someone who skips family emergencies for birthday parties and character matters. 143 comments underneath. Someone wrote that they heard about this and the next door post was brutal. Another person said Ashley's brother was a teacher at Lincoln and he was a good guy and they felt bad for him. Third comment said Ashley used her brother's name for credibility and then ghosted his kid. I took a screenshot and showed Lisa. She looked at it and said, it's out of our hands now. Wednesday morning. Emma was eating cereal at the kitchen table and watching me make coffee. She said my name and I asked what's up. She asked why Grandma didn't come to the hospital last Friday. I sat down across from her and told her the truth in the simplest way I could. Said Grandma made a bad choice and went to Aunt Ashley's party instead. Emma said, oh, and then asked if the party was more fun than visiting her. My chest felt tight. I told her no, nothing is more fun than being with her. She asked then, why did Grandma go? I said, I don't know, baby. Emma was quiet for a long moment while she stirred her cereal around in the bowl. Then she said she didn't think she wanted to see Grandma anymore. Lisa was standing in the doorway and I saw her eyes start to water. Wednesday at 4 p.m. there was aggressive knocking on the front door. I opened it, and Ashley was standing there. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes, same clothes she'd probably worn yesterday. She said we needed to talk. I told her no, we didn't. She pushed past me into the house without waiting for permission. Lisa came out of the kitchen and said, "Excuse me." Ashley started yelling. Said I ruined her career and Henderson was her biggest sale of the year. Said she'd put a deposit down on a BMW and now Henderson wouldn't even answer her calls. I stayed calm and told her he made a choice. She said yes because I poisoned him against her. I said I answered a question honestly. She screamed that I could have lied. Lisa stepped between us and told Ashley to get out of our house. Ashley pointed at Lisa and said this was her fault because of that Nextdoor post. Lisa said the post told the truth and Ashley ignored her niece's surgery to go party. Ashley's voice got even louder and she said it was her birthday. Then Emma's small voice came from the stairs saying, "Mommy." Everyone froze. Emma was standing on the third step with her casted arm held against her chest and a scared look on her face. Ashley saw her and her expression changed. Went from angry to something else, maybe guilt or shock. She said Emma's name and called her sweetie. Emma backed up and hid behind the banister. I said get out and my voice was quiet but deadly. Ashley said she just wanted to explain. I said out. Now. She looked at Emma one more time then turned and walked to the door. I followed her and locked it behind her after she left. Emma didn't ask about her again. 6 weeks later in mid-October, Emma's cast came off. The doctor cut through the purple fiberglass with a small saw that made Emma giggle because it tickled. Her arm looked pale and smaller than the other one with a thin pink scar running along the side where they'd made the incision for surgery. Life had settled into a new rhythm. Emma back at school. Lisa working from her home office. Me teaching chemistry and coming home to a house that felt quieter than it used to. My phone rang one Tuesday morning while I was making breakfast. Mom's name on the screen. First time she'd called in 6 weeks that I'd actually considered answering. I answered. She asked how Emma was doing and her voice sounded tentative like she was testing whether I'd hang up. I told her Emma was fine and the cast came off 2 weeks ago. Mom's voice broke slightly when she said she was sorry she wasn't there. I said I know. She asked if they could visit Emma and see how she was doing. I told her I'd ask Emma and see what she wanted. After I hung up, Emma was sitting at the kitchen table coloring. I told her Grandma had called and wanted to visit. Emma didn't look up from her drawing. Asked why. I said Grandma wanted to see her and make sure she was doing okay. Emma kept coloring and asked where Grandma was when she was hurt. I told her the truth. At Aunt Ashley's party. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said she didn't want to see Grandma yet. Maybe later, but not now. I told her that was fair and she didn't have to do anything she wasn't ready for. She went back to coloring like the conversation was over. Late October. Text from Melissa saying she heard Ashley had switched brokerages. Cascade let her go and she started at a smaller firm with a pay cut. I asked if Ashley was okay. Melissa said financially she was struggling, and personally it seemed like everything was finally hitting her about what she'd lost. I didn't respond to that. Lisa read the messages over my shoulder and asked if I felt bad. I said no. November brought parent-teacher conferences. I stayed late on a Thursday evening meeting with parents about their kids' chemistry grades. Principal Henderson stopped by my classroom around 7 p.m. when most people had left. He asked if I had a minute. Told him, of course. He said he wanted me to know he'd bought a different house with a different agent. Then he thanked me for being honest with him back in September and said it showed a lot about my character. I said I just told him the truth. He said that's exactly the point and left. Week before Thanksgiving, Lisa asked what we were doing for the holiday. Emma said she wanted to go somewhere, just the three of us. Suggested the beach because she wanted to see the ocean. Lisa mentioned Cannon Beach and Emma's face lit up. I said, let's do it. Mom called that week asking if we were coming for Thanksgiving. I told her no. She said it had been 2 months and Emma needed her family. I said Emma has family, me and Lisa, and that's enough. She asked if I was really going to keep Emma from her grandparents. I told her I'd asked Emma if she wanted to visit and Emma said no. Then I said Emma was 7 years old and understood consequences better than any of them did. Mom didn't have a response to that. We rented a small house in Cannon Beach for Thanksgiving weekend. 2 bedrooms, kitchen with a view of the ocean, walking distance to the sand. I cooked a turkey that was probably too big for 3 people. Emma and Lisa decorated the table with construction paper turkeys Emma had made at school. Dinner was quiet and peaceful. Just the 3 of us at a table meant for 6. Emma said this was better than last year. I asked why. She said nobody's mean here. Lisa squeezed my hand under the table and didn't say anything. First week of December. Text from Ashley. First time she'd contacted me in 10 weeks. The message said she knew I probably wouldn't respond, but she wanted to say she was sorry. Should have come to the hospital. Should have checked on Emma. Called herself selfish. Said she didn't expect forgiveness, but needed me to know she finally understood what she'd done. I read it 3 times. Showed Lisa and asked if I should respond. She said that was up to me. I waited 2 days. Finally typed back that I hoped she did understand. Sent it. She didn't reply and I didn't expect her to. January. 3 months after the accident. Emma finished her last physical therapy appointment and the doctor said she had full range of motion restored. Good as new. Emma demonstrated by touching her fingertips to her shoulder and straightening her arm completely. Asked if she could do gymnastics again. Doctor said yes, but start slow. In the car on the way home, Emma asked if I thought Grandma was fixed, like her arm was fixed. I asked what she meant. She said like whether Grandma was sorry now. I told her I thought so. Emma said maybe we could visit after her first gymnastics class. I said, okay, February, Saturday afternoon visit to Mom's house. We agreed on 2 hours maximum. Mom cried when she saw Emma and apologized for not being there. Emma said it's okay, she was better now. Mom thanked me for coming. I told her Emma wanted to come and this was for her, not for them. Conversation was stiff and careful like we were all walking on ice that might crack. Dad asked Emma about school. Mom showed Emma photos of their dog who died last year. We left after exactly 2 hours. Emma said in the car that it was okay and asked if we could wait a month before going again. I said, yeah, baby, we can. March. Text from Melissa saying Jake and his wife weren't talking to Ashley anymore. Something about bringing shame to the family. Dad had stopped calling Ashley weeks ago. Only Mom still reached out regularly. I wrote back that it was sad. Melissa asked if it really was, though, considering Ashley did this to herself. I said, yeah, she did. August rolled around 10 months after the accident. Emma's 8th birthday party in our backyard. 12 kids from school running around. Lisa's parents came and brought presents. Emma's gymnastics teammates showed up with their parents. I'd invited Mom and Dad. They came and stayed for 90 minutes before leaving just before we brought out the cake. No Ashley, no Jake, no extended family. Emma blew out her candles while everyone sang, and Lisa asked her what she wished for. Emma said she couldn't tell or it wouldn't come true. That night, I tucked her into bed and she asked if I was glad I stayed with her at the hospital that night. My throat got tight, and I told her I would always stay with her. She said, I know. People told me I overreacted. Said a broken arm wasn't worth destroying family relationships over. Said I should have let it go, but they didn't understand what it was really about. It wasn't about the broken arm or the surgery or even the birthday party. It was about 6 people seeing my message and choosing to ignore it. It was about my daughter asking where her grandmother was when she woke up scared and in pain. That question cost Ashley $25,000 and her reputation. Cost my parents their relationship with their granddaughter. Cost me nothing because the people who mattered showed up. Lisa, the nurses, my principal, my neighbors, strangers on the internet who understood that character matters. Mom visits once a month now with strict time limits. Emma tolerates it because she's a better person than I am. Ashley and I don't speak. Maybe we will someday. Maybe we won't. Jake sends birthday cards that Emma doesn't open. Emma's arm healed in 6 weeks, but my family is still broken and probably always will be. But Emma's happy. She has real friends. She does gymnastics 3 times a week. She knows what loyalty looks like because she watched me choose her over everyone who shared my last name. Some people think that makes me cold. Maybe they're right. But I'd rather be cold and present than warm and absent. Every single time. Emma's scar faded to a thin white line by the time she turned 9. She traced it sometimes while doing homework or watching TV. Asked her once if it bothered her. She said no. Said it reminded her that bones heal stronger where they break. I didn't tell her that's not scientifically accurate. Didn't matter. Let her believe in the metaphor.